All right, Mayor Atchison, it looks like we are live. I'm just going to give this a couple minutes to refresh and see who's going to join us before we kick our live stream on. All right, well, good morning and happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning into our COVID-19 series. Mondays are especially exciting for me because I get a chance to have our mayor, Herb Atchison, share some screen time with us, give some updates from his end, what's going on from the city, from his seat as mayor, and just answer questions and take comments up from our public. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. Please be sure that you're liking this page when you follow us. If this is your first time watching a video that's related to COVID, know that you have discovered a treasure trove, and we have several other videos that are still existent on our page. If you go to the videos tab, you'll be able to see them all for the past month that we've been hosting these conversations. Every day it's something different. Monday, we feature a mayor. Friday, we have some of our elected share updates from their specific lens. And then between the rest of those days, we have educational trainings all the way to industry town halls and some other fun events like our job fairs or happy hours and things to engage while you're staying socially distant. So I wanted to go ahead and thank a couple. It looks like we have Brian Dice and Brian Head that are already tuned in to our feed. Make sure that if you have questions during this broadcast that you type them into the comment box below. Type in question and then write in what your question is so we can try and get that answered by our mayor. So I will turn this over. I hope you notice the color coordination. Our mayor is dressed in blue. I've got lively red and we've got white backgrounds. We're going for a patriotic look is what we've decided. So Mayor Atchison, I'd like for you to just take this away and share with us some updates.
Good morning, Juliette, and good morning to the other members of the chamber. We've got a busy week this past week, so I'll try to give you some of the updates. Some of you may have heard some of this before. If it's a repeat, my apologies. But the SBA program that people are aware of, this is the SBA PPP funding of $349 billion, has been exhausted. We had some updates from Congress this morning. It looks like there may be an opportunity for some additional funding in there. As of April 16th, though, they had cut out any new applications. Effective today, through the state unemployment office, the 1099 and independent contractors can start to apply through the unemployment office, which they've never been able to do before. So that opened up today. For those in Westminster specifically that are still facing the issues of rental problems with homes that they're living in and issues like that, evictions, landlord-tenant issues. It was interesting. I talked to Colorado Legal Services, which is the contact we have here in Westminster, and I'm not sure what's driving this, but their call rate was 40% of normal. Without the COVID issue, just 40% of normal is all they're seeing. So there's a real drop in calls, and they are unable to explain what's driving the reduction in calls. I would have thought that they would have been much higher, especially with people really starting to see that those first checks haven't come in. Something that we have found out, many people are aware that we've had a vacant hospital building at the corner of Church Ranch and Westminster Boulevard, right next to the Mercedes dealers. Well, it's now leased.
Oh, that's exciting.
We will have a new hospital going in there. They should be open about the end of the year. It's a group out of Texas, and they will be employing about 150 people there. This is not a competition with our typical hospitals. In fact, they'll be partnering with one of our local 4 providers here in Westminster. So we're looking forward to that.
That is great. Yeah.
We just got an update this morning. Many of you have heard us talk about the fact that we've had a program that was championed by the Metro mayors and the municipalities here in the Denver area trying to raise funds for our small business groups and to help them. Westminster, I'll talk about our RISE program here in a minute, was one of those where we contributed $1.5 million to help finance and carry over. Now these, in Westminster's case, those are grants that are not to be repaid. But as of this morning, we have a new figure that have been raised by the municipalities. That number is now $19,174,000 that is available for grants and loans depending upon the municipality you live in. One of the things that I was want to clear up, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of scare going on about a facility that's going to be reopened in Westminster. A lot of people have heard it referred to in the news presses from the governor's office stuff as St. Anthony's North. St. Anthony's North is the hospital that's at 144th and I-25.
Right.
The state notified Centura, along with the federal government, being the Corps of Engineers specifically, that they were going to use the old St. Anthony's campus at 84th and Federal as an overflow surge process. And that has picked up notoriety here in the last few weeks, that some communication that was out this past week from the governor's office is some of the people from nursing homes that are at risk of where they're at will be transferred to that facility. The Corps of Engineers lease on that facility starts on May the 1st. They were scheduled to start construction a week ago to start to get that facility ready for reopening. I checked with the CEO of the hospital that owns that, which is St. Anthony's, and there has been no construction start on that as of Thursday of last week. But the question that came up was, why isn't Westminster doing anything about preventing this? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a federal law under this Federal Emergency Act that was declared by the president. We have no authority, even at the federal level, much like the state level. This is being done because of the declared national emergency, and not only nationally, but here in Colorado as well. The people who are being brought there to give them a better chance of surviving from where they're currently at. I am not aware of the level, but we have attempted through our city manager's office and myself to make contacts directly with the Corps, but they are not communicating with us. They're only communicating with the state. So we don't have any play in that one at all. And I know it's upset some people, but this is a federal piece that's doing that we just do not have any authority over. One thing that I was talking to Juliet about that I had sent out a notice this morning, ladies and gentlemen, email scams are alive and well. There was one that I got notified this morning that my name has appeared, but if you look in the title of the email, if you happen to get it, it says my name, but the return email address that's there is not mine. It's something else. So we are aware through the police department, there are a number of these that are floating around trying to get people to donate credit cards, shop at home cards, whatever they can get their hands on. And it's amazing. So we still have so many people, especially some of our seniors, that fall prey to this issue. I ask you, if you get something like this, verify with the person you think it's coming from that this is really sent out by them. But this is at least my fourth one that I have been made aware of. It's not necessarily just mine, but that's at least 4. And our police department is trying to investigate any of those, but the likelihood of finding these perpetrators, because they're probably not here in the United States to start with. So when you're checking your email before you respond, or you go out and buy cards and you're going to send them to an unknown person, be careful. Double check the information on it. If you have to, call the person who is purported to be from to find out if it's really true. In most cases, I think you'll find it's probably not. Okay, I covered a lot of it. Let me jump into the Westminster Rise program for a minute. You know, the Westminster Rise initiative was an opportunity for us to bring the community together to heal and recover from the COVID-19 crisis. While this is a global pandemic impacting all corners of the world, our responsibility as a city is to provide the information, the guidance, and tools that will help Westminster continue to be the vibrant community we all know it to be. The Westie Rise initiative is the only COVID-19 economic recovery program that specifically addresses the needs of the Westminster business community and the Westminster community at large. Now, Westie Rise will help the Westminster business community and the community at large recover from the COVID-19 crisis by providing programs and services specifically targeted toward Westminster economic resilience. We're going to focus our efforts on the key tenets of the economic recovery: economic resilience, workforce and employment, quality of place, including our housing, the importance of community, and innovation. One of the first programs we developed under the Westie Rise initiative is the Westie Rise Business Grant. We had an overwhelming response to this program with more than 400 applications received in 48 hours after it launched.
Mhm.
We've had to suspend accepting more applications to allow our staff time to review the applications that have already been submitted. Westy Rise will invite ideas and use innovation to approach unprecedented challenges during unprecedented times. Our business environment has changed and we're going to respond accordingly with new approaches. We're going to think differently and always be looking a few steps ahead. We do want to hear from you. All of us have ideas that can lead us toward recovery. Westy Rise will be our rally cry and common thread throughout the city to let our employees, citizens, businesses, and community partners know that we are all in this together and we are committed to economic resilience and recovery. You'll see a lot more about Westy Rise in the coming days and weeks as we approach the long road to economic recovery. So out of the 400 applications that we received, the staff started working those. Again, it opened up at 8 o'clock last Monday morning, and we closed it at 6 o'clock on Tuesday evening because we had already gotten that 400 applications. So let me give you an update. This is from our Economic Development Office, and this is off the press as of about 9 o'clock this morning. On Monday, April the 13th at 8 a.m., the city's Economic Development Department opened applications for the Westy Rise Business Grant Program. In the first hour, just under 100 applications were received. Because of the extraordinary response, the acceptance of new audition applications for, excuse me, I'm got a frog all of a sudden. Because of the extraordinary response, the acceptance of new applications for grant assistance was closed Tuesday, April 14th, with over 400 applications having been submitted. Beginning Wednesday morning, a new team from Economic Development with support from Finance and Policy and Budget began reviewing and processing applications. Applications are being evaluated against program criteria and reviewed for status related to being in good standing with the city and the Secretary of State. By close of business Friday, April 17th, 160 applications had been reviewed against the program criteria. 48 of the 160 have also been reviewed related to their good standing status and have been approved for a grant award. With checks being issued beginning today, April the 20th, award notifications will occur by both email and letter. They will also be going out on Monday, April the 20th. Staff is anticipating reviewing approximately 50 applications per day for the remainder of the week, with award notices and checks going out to the approved businesses throughout the week and into next week. The goal is to have all applications reviewed, processed, and notifications sent out by the end of the month. So out of 400 that came in, we're already well on to getting checks out. As the piece said, the first checks go out today. And out of those that get approved, and I don't know what that number is going to be since we're just early on in the application review process. Again, our staff is working extremely long hours trying to get these processed because we understand the importance of how soon those checks get out and how much we can get out into the community. As I was talking to Juliet when we first got on the phone together today, the governor has called an impromptu meeting with mayors from the metro area at 12:30 this morning. We are anticipating that we'll get some updates on what's going on with the stay-at-home order on our COVID-19 infection rates. But then he has a second call tomorrow with the Metro Mayors Group, and therefore we'll have more of a question and answer period than just a press release or an announcement, just like the one from this morning. So as we know more information, I anticipate that we'll hear a lot over the next couple of days since the current stay-at-home order expires on the 26th. I would tell you that our big issue here in Colorado is still the biggest problem is testing. The process for the testing requires a set of chemicals or reagents, as they are called, to be present here to start the process. Once you have the reagents, you need the swabs. Once you have those two, then you need people who are qualified to administer the testing. Once that's done, then it has to go to the labs to be tested. We are not in a position with any of those four to do massive testing in order to be able to determine how many people are affected, how many people have recovered and never went to the hospital, and whether or not they are contagious themselves. This has been a big issue that the Metro Mayors Group and most of the municipalities in this North End have consistently raised with the governor's office because we're not seeing the aid come from the federal level. Whether or not we can get through this over the next couple of weeks and be open by the end of the month is still a big question. There is some conversation, and that's all it is at this point, of conversation of this going into May. I think the big thing right now is to keep an eye on the press conferences coming from the governor's office this week, and a reminder that this is not a local decision of whether or not you stay quarantined. This is a state order. The city does not have the authority to override the state order or the federal order. The reason we declared the state of emergency here in the city was to allow us to be able to get funds from the federal government to help us recover from this from a financial standpoint. The CARES Act right now is set up that it's going to states, municipalities, and counties over 500,000. Well, both Adams and Jefferson County both qualify under that, but there's no real indication at this point that beyond the county, that CARES Act money will definitely go down to municipalities. We are still trying to work with our federal legislators to get some clarification on that, as well as through the governor's office. And again, those kind of questions are not answered at this point. So we don't know what kind of funds might be eligible to the individual cities within both our counties.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you a break. I know you've been sharing a lot of information. Holy moly, it's a lot of good stuff. So I want to have you rest for a second while I read a couple of, it looks like we have Councillor Bowles that's on here. He's thanking you, Mayor, for sharing some updates. We also have Councillor Smith, I saw, and DeMont that's sharing thank you to the Mayor and the Chamber for another useful update. There are a lot of things, and I took some notes so I can go back to them if that's okay before I take up any additional questions that are here. You know, we talk about scams, email scams, scams of even getting pulled over when PD isn't pulling people over, scams of people calling and asking you for your account information, IRS, so you can get your stimulus check, and to make sure that you are not giving your information. If you are receiving emails or phone calls like that, check the validity of it before you disperse your information out, because there are a lot of scams, websites, and things of that nature. We did share that exciting news that the vacant building that's close to the Mercedes right there off of the promenade is going to be occupied by the end of the year with a new hospital provider. So that is very exciting. Hopefully they'll be hiring locally, and we can try and get that word out as well for that. We mentioned a little bit about that grant, and thank you, Mayor, for going into detail about the volume that we received on those grants. That was feedback from our business community really needing funding and everything, and our city really listened to that and turned around and approved, our council approved that package to go forward. So we were very thankful for that. I know it went super fast, but no, it was a response based on the needs in our community. So I thought that was very beneficial for you to touch on. You did mention the grant program, grant/loan program that's in partnership with other municipalities and our Adams County, for example. You referenced that it could be a grant or a loan depending on your municipality. Do we know, as far as Westminster specific businesses, would they be, if they apply to this fund that Adams County is rolling out, would that be eligible for a grant or loan, or a combination of both?
I think what theirs is primarily in a combination. Some stuff is qualified as a grant and some is set up as a loan. I believe, if I'm correct, the example would be Arvada. I think Arvada set up all of theirs are loans. I don't think they're including grants in theirs, but I haven't kept up with what each individual city or county is doing. I think that we're going to still see the opportunities for some of this. I don't know any city right now that had put that up that has the application process still open. I think just about everybody has received so many of them that they've closed the application periods while they try to go qualify and who's not.
Yeah, it's crazy, the volume on everything. Thank you so much, Wayne. It looks like Kaylee Kemsel, both of you are on here. Brian Dice, thanks you, Mayor, for sharing some important updates with our community and everything that the city is doing as well. You know, there is one other grant that the U.S. Chamber just pushed out that's related to small businesses, 2 employees to 20 employees. We included that link in our newsletter. We have it as a funding link on our Chamber's COVID resources page, so that may also be an avenue for additional funding that's out there as well. Is there anything, I feel like there was something else that I pulled. We talk about the West U Rise efforts and really coming behind as a community to see that we will rise and move forward from the present situation that they're in. I know that's a proactive approach that the city's taking. We'll be working hand in hand in sharing that messaging out to the public. So I thought that was very exciting and timely for you to share as well. EIDL applications being suspended. I know we did a webinar that related to that. So if you wanted information about EIDL, you can find out through that webinar. And our mayor just shared, there hasn't been any funding or anything toward this. There are people that are pushing and advocating. I know several interest groups are, and chambers as well, to try and get that refunded. And I'm sure that's something that we'll find more information about here probably within the next few days. Probably the most intriguing stat that you shared was about the Colorado legal advice line. So you mentioned that they're 40% down. I know we've sent them people like crazy to call them. So I'm wondering why they're so far below on their volumes of calls.
I can't explain that, and neither could the director that I talked to. They were just flabbergasted that their call volume went down from what just a normal call, without all the pressures of people not having jobs. So they're just at a loss, and whether it's people are not thinking about it. Sure. I know I saw in the paper this morning that the evictions and the issues dealing with landlords and stuff probably wasn't too bad, because most people had a check that carried them through the first part of April. Mm-hmm. Probably the bigger piece is going to be next month, when those people who would normally have gotten a couple of checks during the month may not have gotten but one at the beginning of April, and may not get a second one. So that whole issue and the whole process of when can we get people back to work. Mm-hmm. We saw some very poor examples over the weekend here in Denver of social distancing, people ignoring that, the potential of them either becoming infected or infected others. It just did not, in my opinion, make a lot of sense. I know people are frustrated. I know they want to get back to work, but going back to work doesn't mean that we need to potentially infect others and have more loss of lives. Our rate of loss here in Colorado is still about 20 a day. Wow. On an average of what we see, and that's what we get reports on. And again, some of those reports are delayed, waiting on the hospital or the morgue or whoever's doing that to finally determine the cause of death. But losing even one life is tough, and nice. The families can't do normal services, having funerals for the entire family. The families are having to make a decision of children and grandchildren being able to attend a funeral, because they're limited in the number they can have. So this is far-reaching, and we need to be thankful that those of us who are still healthy are that way. But the way we do this is everybody work together to try to get this through the process, and testing will still be the big determining factor, in my opinion, when we can reopen.
Absolutely. And I hear it just in your entire conversation just now. It's really having patience and an understanding of your surrounding. And even when you mentioned about the facility that's here that we have for Centura, that we'll be bringing people into, that we're trying to support, and this would be an opportunity for them. It's still being mindful that when you go out, you're wearing masks, or you're taking the precautions that you need to, so that you stay safe. So regardless of what's going on around you, if you're doing your part, and that's kind of what that hashtag was that the governor kicked off, you're doing your part to stay healthy, then in the long run, we'll all pull together and move forward from it.
I agree.
So we also have another thank you, Mayor, from Dave Carpenter. I don't have any questions. I think you generate no questions, only praises, and it is because you just give succinct and efficient messaging on our videos. It's just, everyone loves the information that you share, and I come out of this with so much knowledge, and I'm excited to hear what you find out on your next couple of meetings that you have scheduled and beyond that. But I do thank you so much for always taking Mondays in the morning to spend a couple of minutes with us here on a broadcast. And I know that we're in wake of COVID and everything, but this is probably one of my highlights. So thank you so much, Mayor, for hopping on with me. I hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you, and you too. Everybody be safe.